Breaking news. President Donald Trump is said to be absolutely furious, completely losing control, after Russian television channels broadcasted uncensored, explicit photos of First Lady Melania Trump live on national TV. This is not a joke. This isn't some minor political drama. This is a full-blown international crisis hitting the White House at the very core. How could this even happen? Who's behind this unprecedented attack? And how bad will the fallout be for the sitting president of the United States? Buckle up, because what we're about to uncover is wild, messy, and more unbelievable than anything you've ever seen before. To understand the full gravity of this scandal, we need to rewind. For years, Melania Trump's past as a model has been used by the president's critics to embarrass him and his administration. Photos from her modeling days have resurfaced multiple times, but this is on an entirely different level. Melania Trump, born Melania Knobs, grew up in the small Slovenian town of Sevnica. Her father, Victor, managed a car dealership, and her mother, Amalija, worked in a textile factory. Despite her humble beginnings, Melania was strikingly beautiful and ambitious. At the age of 16, she was discovered by a modeling scout at a local fashion show in Ljubljana. This chance encounter launched her modeling career. She quickly began working in the Slovenian capital before moving to Milan and later Paris, where she signed with some of the top modeling agencies of the time. Life was not easy in Europe. Melania lived in small model apartments, often sharing cramped spaces with several other young women, surviving on little money while trying to stand out in a highly competitive industry. But her persistence paid off. By the early 1990s, Melania was working for major luxury brands like Dolce, Gabbana, Valentino, and Versace, earning a reputation for her discipline and serious work ethic. She appeared in numerous runway shows and photo shoots, slowly building an impressive portfolio. In 1996, she made the bold move to New York City, determined to break into the world's largest fashion market. The transition was difficult. She spoke little English and had to start from scratch once again. But her efforts eventually landed her campaigns with elite photographers such as Helmut Newton and Patrick Demarchelier. She appeared in international fashion magazines, including Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, and gained further notoriety for a 2000 British GQ spread where she posed nude on a fur rug in Donald Trump's private jet. By the time she met Donald Trump at a Manhattan Fashion Week party in 1998, Melania had already established herself as a respected model with an international career. However, those same provocative images from her past would later become a source of controversy, resurfacing repeatedly during Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and now taking on a whole new life in the wake of the Russian television broadcast. On Thursday night, millions of Russians watching Channel 1, the country's largest state-run network, were stunned when their evening news abruptly shifted to an investigative segment about Western hypocrisy. And right there, in the middle of prime time, they broadcasted private, never-before-seen nude photographs of First Lady Melania Trump, fully uncensored, fully visible to the entire nation. Russian anchors called her a symbol of Western decadence as the images filled TV screens across the country. Political experts are already calling this one of the most damaging scandals a sitting president has faced in decades. Even during moments of political turmoil in the past, nothing compared to the sheer personal nature of this attack. Unlike other controversies, this strikes at the president's family, making it even harder to control. Advisors reportedly warned Trump that the leak could be weaponized by his opponents both at home and abroad, shaking his ability to lead at a crucial time. These weren't just old magazine photos. Multiple sources say the images were deeply personal, intimate, and had been guarded for years. No one knows exactly how Russian television obtained them, but experts suspect they may have come from a hacked private archive, stolen years ago, and released now for maximum impact. And the timing could not be worse. President Trump is facing immense pressure at home and abroad as he navigates one of the most complex geopolitical landscapes in decades. And his opponents, both foreign and domestic, know exactly how to hit him where it hurts most. What makes this broadcast so shocking is not just the explicit content, but the timing and the platform. Russian state television has long been known for its propaganda, but airing intimate images of a sitting U.S. First Lady is unprecedented. Diplomats privately described the act as a deliberate provocation. Some even suggested it could be an attempt to test the White House's response, to see just how far they can go without triggering a major diplomatic crisis. According to insiders inside the White House, the president completely lost it the moment he was informed. One staffer described the scene as something out of a Hollywood thriller. Trump reportedly shouted at aides, slammed his phone on a desk, and immediately called his legal and intelligence teams, demanding answers. "He was livid," said one source. "I've seen him angry before, but this was different. This was personal." Trump reportedly believes the broadcast was not an accident. He's convinced it was a coordinated strike designed to humiliate him and destabilize his presidency, and he's vowing revenge. Inside the West Wing, the atmosphere was described as tense, even chaotic. Staffers rushed to brief the president on what had happened, knowing that his reaction would be explosive. Some aides reportedly feared that the scandal would completely derail the administration's agenda. Others, however, believed that Trump's anger could be channeled into a show of strength, a strategy to rally his base in the face of an unprecedented attack. Sources say that in private, Trump vented not just about the images themselves, but about what he sees as a coordinated campaign to humiliate him. He allegedly accused his enemies of exploiting Melania's past to undermine his credibility as a leader. One senior official described the president as more furious than we have ever seen him, warning that such anger could lead to drastic decisions. Behind the scenes, chaos is spreading. Lawyers are preparing lawsuits. Phone lines with Russian officials are reportedly burning hot, and intelligence agencies are trying to determine whether this attack could have been part of a broader information warfare campaign. But while the administration tries to contain the crisis, the internet is exploding. Within minutes of the Russian broadcast, Melania leaks was trending worldwide. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram were flooded with memes, commentary, and speculation. Comedians and late-night hosts immediately latched on, mocking the president relentlessly, while allies called the leak a disgraceful violation of privacy. But the images are now everywhere. Once something is on the internet, it's nearly impossible to erase. While the internet continued to explode with memes and commentary, serious questions were being asked in Washington. Lawmakers from both parties demanded to know how such private material could have been obtained and broadcast by a foreign state. Intelligence agencies were ordered to investigate immediately, but officials privately admitted that the trail could be difficult to follow and that the damage had already been done. And the questions keep coming. Who leaked these photos to Russian TV? Why now? Was it a foreign adversary trying to undermine the president? Was it an inside job? Investigators are reportedly looking at several possible sources. Some believe it could have been Russian oligarchs who recently fell out with Vladimir Putin and wanted to embarrass both Russia and Trump simultaneously. Others point to Trump's political enemies within the United States, suggesting the leak was orchestrated domestically. And then there are the wilder theories that Melania herself may have been involved, seeking leverage or revenge against her husband. There is no evidence for that claim, but in Trump's world, no theory feels too far-fetched. Theories began to swirl about who might be responsible. Was this a carefully orchestrated foreign operation? Or could it have been facilitated by someone closer to the president? Analysts noted that the images appeared to come from a cache that was never meant for public release, fueling speculation that an insider or someone with access to private archives may have played a role. Meanwhile, First Lady Melania Trump has remained completely silent. She has not made any public statements since the broadcast, and sources close to her describe her as humiliated and furious in private. Those same sources say the situation has reignited long-standing tensions in the Trump household. She blames Donald for putting her in this position, said one insider. She never wanted this life, and now the entire world has seen her most private photos. The silence from the First Lady has only fueled speculation about what she may do next, with some suggesting she could distance herself even further from the president. Behind closed doors, White House officials weighed their options. Should they go on the offensive and retaliate against those they believed responsible? Or should they focus on damage control and try to move past the scandal as quickly as possible? Every decision carried risks. Some advisors warned that a heavy-handed response could escalate tensions internationally, while others argued that doing nothing would make the president look weak. As for President Trump, his anger is reportedly boiling over. He's telling close allies that this is the single most vicious attack on his family and his presidency that he has ever experienced. In closed-door meetings, he has described the leak as an act of war and is demanding answers and accountability. Whether the president ever finds out who is responsible, the damage has already been done. The photos are everywhere. The memes are everywhere, and the perception that Trump cannot protect even his own family, let alone his nation, is spreading fast. But this story is far from over. Our sources say President Trump is preparing a major public address to directly confront the scandal. Legal battles are expected to escalate in the coming days, with lawsuits potentially targeting Russian state media, unknown hackers, and even US-based outlets that shared the images. Yet experts believe no amount of legal action can erase what's already out there. Once an image is online, it's there forever. And for a sitting president who thrives on image and control, that's a devastating reality. And there's one more twist. Sources tell us that the images aired on Russian television may not be the only material out there. Rumors are growing that additional compromising content could surface in the coming weeks. Whether that's true or simply a bluff is unclear, but one thing is certain: the storm surrounding President Trump and the First Lady is far from over. The scandal didn't just shake the White House, it sent shockwaves through Washington and the entire world. Within hours of the Russian broadcast, allies of the United States reached out behind closed doors, asking urgent questions. Was America's first family compromised? Was there a security breach? Diplomats from Europe, Asia, and Latin America privately expressed concern that this kind of personal attack on the U.S. president could embolden hostile powers. One NATO ambassador, speaking off the record, told us, "If they can do this to the president's family, imagine what else they can do." The sense of vulnerability is real, and that's exactly what America's enemies wanted to project. In European capitals, the scandal dominated headlines. Leaders in London, Paris, and Berlin were reportedly stunned by the brazenness of the attack. One European security official described it as a direct shot at the credibility of the American presidency. Allies fear that the leak may be part of a broader campaign to undermine Western unity. Japan and South Korea expressed solidarity with Washington, but quietly raised concerns about whether President Trump could stay focused on critical security issues in the Indo-Pacific. Even Canada, America's closest neighbor, is said to be assessing how this crisis could impact ongoing trade and defense negotiations. Back in Washington, members of Congress were furious. Bipartisan committees quickly demanded briefings from the FBI and CIA. Intelligence officials admitted that they had been aware of chatter about potential leaks targeting the First Lady months ago, but they hadn't expected a full-on live broadcast by Russian state media. Senator Graham, one of Trump's staunchest allies, went on television to call the attack a declaration of psychological warfare. Democrats, meanwhile, accused Trump's team of failing to secure the First Lady's private archive, arguing that the president's chaotic leadership style has left his own family vulnerable to foreign blackmail. Financial markets also reacted nervously to the unfolding chaos. Wall Street opened lower the morning after the Russian broadcast, with investors worried that the scandal could distract the administration from economic policy. Internationally, the dollar showed signs of weakness as traders feared prolonged instability in Washington. Major corporations with close ties to the administration found themselves in the crosshairs as activists launched campaigns to boycott Trump-associated brands. This isn't just a political story anymore, one financial analyst said. This is a global confidence issue. But the outrage didn't stop there. Social media was still on fire, but now mainstream media outlets were forced to cover the story as well. Cable news networks ran wall-to-wall coverage, carefully avoiding the explicit photos but replaying the Russian broadcast again and again with blurred screens. Legal experts debated whether any U.S. outlets could be held liable for amplifying the images. Privacy advocates argued that Melania Trump was the victim of one of the worst invasions of privacy in modern history. Others pointed out that the photos, however personal, were technically real and part of her past, and that trying to erase them would only fuel more curiosity. Meanwhile, leaks from intelligence agencies began trickling to the press. Anonymous officials told reporters that they had identified multiple pathways the photos could have taken before reaching Russian TV. One theory suggested the images were obtained during a cyber attack years ago and stored for a strategic moment. Another theory pointed to a disgruntled insider with access to Melania's private files. These leaks only deepened the mystery and fed a media frenzy that showed no signs of slowing down. Every hour, new exclusive details emerged, many of them unverified, making it harder for the White House to regain control of the narrative. Behind the scenes, the Trump family was reportedly in crisis mode. Sources close to the First Lady say she was devastated and felt betrayed. She blames Donald for dragging her into this world, one family friend told us. She has tolerated a lot over the years, but this is beyond humiliating. Those close to Melania believe this could be a breaking point in their marriage. Already known for living separate lives, even during Trump's presidency, the First Lady is said to be spending more time at her private residence, avoiding the public eye altogether. Inside the White House, the atmosphere was described as toxic. Senior advisors clashed over how to handle the scandal. Some urged the president to take a measured approach and avoid escalating tensions with Russia. Others pushed for an immediate and aggressive response, including sanctions and cyber retaliation. "It's a knife fight in there," one aide said. "Everyone is pointing fingers, and nobody wants to be blamed for letting this happen." The divisions have only made it harder for the administration to project strength at a time when the world is watching. And yet, even in this moment of personal turmoil, political battles are raging. Conservative media has rallied around Trump, framing the scandal as a malicious foreign attack designed to weaken America. Talk radio hosts and pro-Trump influencers are telling millions of followers that the president is being targeted because he's strong, because he can't be controlled by global elites. This narrative is resonating with his base. At a rally in Texas just days after the leak, Trump supporters were chanting, "We love Melania," and "Fight back." But will the president's fury translate into action, or will it alienate the rest of the country? Meanwhile, Democrats and anti-Trump Republicans are seizing the moment. Some are questioning whether Trump can still effectively lead, arguing that the scandal has distracted the administration from pressing domestic and international crises. One senior Democratic strategist told us, "Every minute the White House spends on damage control is a minute they're not governing." That's a gift to us. Calls for congressional hearings into the leak's origins are growing louder. Some lawmakers even floated the idea that Trump could have mishandled classified materials related to the First Lady's past, an explosive accusation that the White House strongly denies. Adding to the pressure, several former presidents weighed in. Barack Obama, speaking at a private fundraiser, described the incident as deeply troubling and warned that America's adversaries were exploiting divisions at home. George W. Bush, usually reluctant to comment on Trump, issued a rare statement expressing sympathy for the First Lady but urging the administration to restore America's credibility abroad. Even Bill Clinton, who knows a thing or two about scandal, hinted that the White House needed to focus on protecting the country, not just themselves. These interventions from political heavyweights only amplified the sense that Trump was under siege from all directions. Internationally, the scandal has created a perception problem for America. Adversaries like China and Iran are watching closely, analyzing every move the president makes. One Chinese state newspaper mocked Trump with a cartoon showing him frantically trying to cover a giant television screen displaying Melania's blurred image. In Moscow, Kremlin officials dismissed the controversy as Western hysteria, but Russian social media accounts have been amplifying memes about the First Lady nonstop. Analysts believe the Kremlin may have achieved exactly what it wanted, sowing doubt about Trump's strength and humiliating him on a global stage. In private, Trump has reportedly become obsessed with finding out who leaked the photos. He's told allies that he won't rest until he has answers. According to multiple sources, the president has even ordered intelligence agencies to go nuclear, meaning they're pulling every resource possible to trace the origin of the leak. But that kind of aggressive push risks backfiring. Intelligence veterans warn that if the administration overreaches, it could violate civil liberties or spark another political firestorm. He's walking a fine line, one former CIA officer told us. The desire for revenge is strong, but if he goes too far, it could blow up in his face. And now, there are whispers about something even darker. Multiple sources tell us that the images aired on Russian television may be only the beginning. There are rumors unconfirmed but persistent that additional compromising material exists, potentially even videos. If true, and if that material ever sees the light of day, it could be catastrophic for the First Lady and for President Trump's political future. Allies are begging the White House to get ahead of the story before it spirals further out of control. But the administration is paralyzed, trapped between defending Melania's privacy and bracing for whatever might come next. One thing is clear: this scandal has become more than a personal humiliation. It's now a national security issue. The First Lady's privacy has been weaponized, the president's credibility has been shaken, and America's adversaries are celebrating. How Trump chooses to respond could define not only his presidency but also the country's standing in the world. Will he retaliate aggressively, risking escalation with foreign powers? Will he turn inward, focusing on repairing the damage at home? Or will the relentless drip of rumors and leaks eventually force him into a corner he can't escape? For now, the nation and the world is holding its breath, because if there's one thing everyone can agree on, it's this: the storm surrounding President Trump and the First Lady is only just beginning.